When you think about WWE, it's hard not to think about the McMahons. Vince McMahon is still the chairman of WWE in the year 2021, but today we're not going to talk about Vince. We're not going to talk about Linda. We're not going to talk about Shane. Today, here on Love Wrestling, ladies, gentlemen, my non-binary friends, it is I, Josh Robinson, and today we're discussing the importance and legacy of Stephanie McMahon. In the late 1990s, we first were graced with the presence of Stephanie McMahon on screen. Now, little did we know the impact that she would have on the business 22 years later. It's hard to believe it's been 22 years since we were first introduced to Stephanie McMahon. But here we are in the year 2021, and Stephanie McMahon has evolved in so many ways. But what truly is the impact and importance and her legacy on sports entertainment and WWE as a whole? She's done so many different things, from creative head writer to chief brand officer, which is what she is right now, on-screen authority figures. She's a former women's champion. She's an on-screen personality that's always going to be associated with WWE. The name McMahon is synonymous with WWE, so it's hard to really take away the fact that Stephanie will always be associated to wrestling, even if she decided to do other things, which I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, because Stephanie seems pretty consumed by her job. Now, as an on-screen role, I know that the internet, quote-unquote, is someone that maybe looks down upon with Stephanie McMahon. Maybe she, quote-unquote, buries talent. Maybe she's not really getting anyone over, she's just kind of getting herself over. And I'm not here to argue whether that's true, whether that's false. That's your opinion on what you think Stephanie McMahon is good for in an on-screen role or not. However, it's really hard to debate the significance of her role on-screen. So before we talk about off-screen, let's talk about on-screen with Stephanie McMahon, because I think she is someone that is kind of a little bit forgotten with how well she can cut a promo, how well she can work the stick, how well she can talk in the world of professional wrestling or sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it. Now, this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think Stephanie McMahon is one of the greatest talkers ever. But it wasn't always like that. If you remember, in the first early years of Stephanie McMahon's on-screen career, she wasn't a great talker. She's someone that really did truly learn her craft and learn how to really talk. I mean, the only way that you can really describe that is that she got the opportunity and time to do so, working with the top stars in the business. When you think about and actually analyze what Stephanie has done, she has worked from everyone from Stone Cold all the way down. She is someone that works with top talent. She works with all talent. She is someone that has had the opportunity to get better. And I mean, when your father is Vince McMahon, one of the, again, hot take, greatest on-screen authority figures, or just heels in general in the history of professional wrestling, it's hard not to learn that. It's hard not to have that in your blood. It's not hard not to look up to that as a role model that I'm sure Vince is to Stephanie. I think we need to talk about the fact that Stephanie McMahon is one of, at least in my opinion, is one of the greatest talkers in the company's history, maybe in wrestling history if you look at a lot of things, but again, that's a very hot take. But Stephanie is very good at what she does, especially in those latter years of the authority figure, which a lot of people didn't like her in, the authority, if you will, the best for business stuff, when she was working with the likes of Daniel Bryan, alongside, of course, her husband Triple H. Now, she is someone that knows really how to deliver a promo and how to really get herself over, especially as a heel. I don't think there's too many people that will argue this. Stephanie McMahon is a natural heel, just like Vince. He's a natural heel. They do have endearing qualities, but of course, they just kind of gravitate towards the heel role. Now, Stephanie, again, she can talk, she can do all this, but she also is, of course, a former WWE Women's Champion. In the years of the early 2000s, she did hold the Women's Championship, only wrestling a handful of times, and I'm not going to sit here and say that Stephanie McMahon is the greatest in-ring performer of all time. No, McMahon is. Shane is on a different level than Vince and Stephanie and Linda's abilities within the ring. There's no question about that. But sometimes it's more about other things than it is the wrestling. The McMahon brings the entertainment side to wrestling, which is ever so important, especially on a stage during the Attitude Era. It really did rely on a lot of these kind of skits and other things that other people brought into the business. Now, of course, Stephanie in the last decade has had a couple of matches here and there. One, of course, notably with Brie Bella, the first time she wrestled, I think, in that time in 11 or 12 years, and putting on a decent performance. Again, I'm not saying Stephanie McMahon is the greatest wrestler in the world, because she certainly is not, but they certainly made it do, and the story there, and at that time, you got to think in 2014, there was no bigger story than Stephanie McMahon for the women. There was an argument, at least there was a slight argument that build and that match between her and Brie Bella could have main evented SummerSlam if they chose that to be the main event. You wouldn't have got that at any other time if you didn't have Stephanie in that story coming out of, you know, I guess you could say in-ring retirement. I don't know if you would use those terms, but you would have someone at least saying, hey, this has had a really good story. They main evented multiple segments. Again, uncharted waters for the women for the most part, during especially in 2014 when this was going down. You wouldn't have had as many eyes and as much anticipation on any other match that Brie Bella was having in 2014. So again, the legacy, the importance of Stephanie McMahon to an on-screen role is that she can bring more eyes. There's automatically more eyes on what she is doing just because of her name, Stephanie McMahon. And just because of the fact that she has so much history with the business, it's just, there's no one that quite invokes a reaction from an audience like a McMahon. Whether people want to admit it or not, whether you have personal opinions on the McMahons, that's all fine. But facts are facts, and they do draw in attention, for better or for worse. So, Stephanie got more eyes on the product through her promos, through her way she presents her character, through her in-ring work. To a certain degree, there was a certain level of anticipation, there was a certain level of like, ooh, Stephanie's never really been that great in the ring. After 12 years, can she come back and do this? And again, Brie and her had a great little rivalry, and they had a great match at SummerSlam in 2014. Of course, the bigger take in the last few years with Stephanie wrestling is, of course, the mixed tag match with herself and Triple H against Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey in Ronda Rousey's first match. Stephanie's one and only WrestleMania match, and arguably that was the match of the night. That was the match of the year in a lot of people's eyes. Again, there was no bigger opponent for Ronda Rousey than Stephanie McMahon. Of course, times have changed a little bit, and we've kind of grown with the women, and there's probably bigger heels within the women's division within WWE. But I mean, it's still arguable. There's still a little bit of a little bit of like I don't even know the word. I don't even know the word to describe the kind of feeling I get to be like, ooh, I would like to see Stephanie McMahon wrestle. I know, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think it just brings this level of, there's this certain height that Stephanie can bring that not everybody can bring. I'm sure that people will argue that, but I don't personally think that at all. Now, I could sit here and talk about Stephanie's on-screen roles all damn day. I really could. I do genuinely love Stephanie McMahon, but I'm looking at this from a broader view and just speaking about the fact that Stephanie is very good at what she does. Now, on-screen stuff and in-ring stuff aside, Stephanie McMahon has become an incredible businesswoman. She's worn many different hats, from creative head writer to chief brand officer to head of talent. She has done a lot of things within WWE as a businesswoman in a male-dominated world, I have to say too. Again, Stephanie has been one that, whether you want to believe it or not, has championed more for women within WWE, both on and off screen. I think it's important to really highlight. We talk about the women's evolution and them getting more time in the ring and just, you know, all the wonderful things that have happened with the WWE women's division. But I think off screen, it's equally, if not more important, to have female writers, to have female agents and producers and females within the business world of WWE. You got to remember, WWE is a giant organization. It is a giant company that is beyond wrestling. It is an entertainment just juggernaut. So Stephanie McMahon championing more for women and being a pretty key player within WWE is a big deal to still be in a male-dominated business world that is WWE. To wrap this up in a nice little bubble and just kind of give you a little bit of an insight to how I view Stephanie McMahon, I think Stephanie is one of the greatest of all time when it comes to talking, when it comes to an on-screen authority figure. I really don't think there's anyone better than the McMahons, in my opinion, and Stephanie and Vince, to me, she is definitely her father's daughter. She has a lot of qualities and attributes that just share with Vince. She's definitely, you can definitely tell that that is her father, and I just genuinely really appreciate Stephanie McMahon, and I don't want to see Stephanie every single week. It's not something I want to see, especially in 2021. It's kind of drawn out in a lot of aspects, but I do want to see Stephanie get in there sometimes when the story requires and when it seems to it can be raised by Stephanie McMahon's presence. I think it's a very good thing. And as a businesswoman, you have to look at Stephanie as someone that is very articulate with the way that she speaks and the way that she promotes WWE. If you've seen interviews with Stephanie, she champions WWE, and you can't hate that. Whether you love WWE, whether you hate it, whether you're indifferent, you have to realize that someone in her role and in her limelight, she talks up WWE like crazy. She's very good at what she does. If you just, again, watch an interview with her and how she presents WWE and how she presents herself in these interviews, you have to at least take in the fact that she's very good at what she does. And, who knows what's going to happen on whenever it's time that Vince McMahon steps aside, and whatever happens, whether it goes to a company, whether it goes to Stephanie or Triple H or a combination of all three, we really don't know, but you have to at least see the bigger picture here, that Stephanie will more than likely be involved with WWE for at least the rest of her working life. You couldn't really imagine her in any other spot. But friends, that's going to do me today here on Love Wrestling. What do you think about Stephanie McMahon? Do you think that her legacy is something that'll be looked back upon and being like, damn, she did a lot for this company, both on and off screen? I want to know. Let me know in the comments below. If you've liked today's video, go ahead and see that thumbs up button. Give us a like here on Love Wrestling. It helps us with the YouTube algorithms, and it let us know that, we're doing a good job. We're really trying to produce as much content as we can throughout our Twitch and our YouTube and our podcast and our websites, with everything that the team here does at Love Wrestling. If you want to follow Love Wrestling, you can do so at Love Wrestling CA across the board on all your favorite social media platforms. If you want to follow me, it is Josh Robinson _00 on Twitter and Josh Robinson 00 pretty much everywhere else. And of course, all my links and Love Wrestling links will be in the description box below. The one last thing I'd like you to do, if you haven't already, is slide your mouse over to the right of this video. A little bit down, you'll see that giant subscribe button. If you haven't, click the sub button so then you can get all the videos that you need for your Love Wrestling needs and get it all and love it. And it'll just be the best thing ever. And of course, hit that bell so you get notifications of when we drop brand new videos. But until next time, guys, I am Josh Robinson here for Love Wrestling. Peace out, everyone.